At 7 o'clock, and I'll ask call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Greg David, who appears absent, and Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Brandon McIntosh,
Present.
and Mr. Mike Proctor.
Here.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. I think Mr. David intends to join us via video, but he's traveling right now, so he can't yet. But he may come in meeting later. We'll see. Next is opening prayer. Bel Aire resident and Pastor Mark Poston is here to lead us in prayer. Mr. Poston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. Father, just thankful for all that you do. And Father, as polls are closing across the state, we just thank you that we live in a country that we can vote and to cast votes. Father, we're thankful for those candidates who run to serve our country, our state, our counties, and our cities. Father, we're thankful for this leadership in the city of Bel Aire. We're thankful for the mayor, for the council members, for city administrator and the staff, for the way that they serve our community. And Father, just make this community a better place. Father, we pray that you would just bless all of the conversations, all the decisions, that you would just grant your wisdom and that you would just lead and guide in every way. And we're thankful for all you do. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in pledge of allegiance to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is to determine agenda additions. Does anyone have any additions to the agenda? I hear of none, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. This includes minutes from the previous regular city council meeting and change order number 4 for the 2026 street maintenance program. In addition, I'm nominating Kent Kohler to the Planning Commission. If confirmed, Kent's term will be from August 4th, 2026, which is today, to August 4th, 2029. And Kent currently is serving as Bel Aire's representative on the steering council of the Sedgwick County Fire District 1.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. McIntosh. Are there any discussions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item is appropriations ordinance. So it encompasses expenses from July 15th through July 28th. And expenditures amount to $813,859. Other reported expenses of $116,086 are infrastructure costs for new developments, and these costs are paid through special assessments.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 26-14.
A motion by Mr.
Second.
Dean, second by Mr. McIntosh. Any questions or discussion? As there are none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries 4-0. City requested appearances, we have none. So next item on the agenda is citizens' concerns. Do we have any citizens that would like to speak to the city council tonight? And I have none. We'll move on to council member reports. Ms. Hamburg, would you like to give a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of CCUA updates. Attended the meeting on the 23rd. Had a couple of items, one of which was we approved a work order for the utility manager to consult with Wilson and Company to figure out if we need to replace or rehabilitate the lime silo on the water side. So that's pretty important. We've needed to do that for a while. So should have some more direction on that soon. And then also took a tour of the well fields just to try to get a better handle on our water rights and kind of that balance of how much water can we really take from there. If other cities were interested in joining CCUA, how reasonable is that? So that was really good to go out and visit those directly and chat with the CCUA employee. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We've done more than I have. I've been to the plant several times, but I've never gone to the well fields. So anyway, thank you. Mr. McIntosh.
No report today, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Proctor.
Mr. Mayor, no report today.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dean.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a few things. Thank you. So first, I just wanted to say, the school year is upon us, and thankfully, most of our street maintenance projects were finished in time for school to start. So I appreciate the staff working really hard with our contractors to see that through. The exception is the addition of a crosswalk and a four-way stop at 53rd and Woodlawn. That's a part of the 53rd Street Path project, and there's been some delays. Obviously, it's a big deal when you make any change in traffic. As a part of that, I let our city manager know my thoughts last week on the potential to do the four-way stop before school starts, so everybody is able to get used to that right off the bat instead of making a change weeks into school with a normal flow already established. So I want to thank Ted, our city manager, and our staff for following up on that request and seeing that happens. I really appreciate that. And I think you guys have done a really good job with communicating as far as with our citizens through social media and our website. I noticed, I pulled it up and there's a little pop-up alert on the top, and then communication that was had also with the schools. So that'll be impacted. So also this week, I had a K254 plan implementation committee meeting and also suggested a follow-up meeting with our board and our steering committee. The main reason was to discuss options for federal grants. I'm hopeful we'll see some solid options, and we'll end up sharing all that at a future membership meeting. I'm hopeful that we can find an opportunity to partner with KDOT on a larger grant to move a lot of the smaller safety concerns forward sooner so that we can start making some headway on that. It's great that our larger projects are happening in Bel Aire as we get construction funding, but I really want to see and really want to keep pushing to see that those smaller safety improvements can happen while we're waiting for the next bigger projects to occur. And then lastly, just wanted to say, summer camp is in its final week at the Bel Aire Rec Center and the pool as well. I wanted to thank our staff. They do a great job running our programs. It's a great quality of life asset for our community to have those. And I'm, on that note, I'm excited, to have discussions during our CIP and our budget discussions on what the future of Bel Aire looks like as it grows and the opportunities we have to continue to support helping to grow the parks and rec programs as we grow. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Just to add on to what Mr. Dean has said, that I'm also thankful that we got all the projects done along 53rd and get the Woodlawn from 45th to 53rd mill and overlaid and the striping done. The same with Rock Road and 53rd. The one misgiving is we're not going to get that crosswalk done before the school starts. Now that's a huge disappointment because that project is over 3 years late, but that's where it is. But the four-way stop is going in, so I do encourage citizens to watch out for these changes. They will impact on how the traffic patterns work and school crossings. And with kids going to school, you got to be extra careful. So that starts a week from Thursday. School starts, so be cognizant of those issues and pay attention to new traffic patterns. Last week, I received a response from KDHE Secretary Janet Stanek concerning our combined letter from Randy Bailey, the CCUA Chair, John Leonard, Park City Mayor, and myself concerning the reuse of the EPA remediation water at CCUA. While the letter was somewhat non-specific as to how KDHE will move forward on the reuse of this water, it was clear they are going to support activities to make this water available for potable water. The EPA will move forward with drilling an additional well on CCUA property. This way, they will be able to extract water near the contamination plume. And I asked KDHE to please expedite approvals for this new well, since the EPA wants to start pumping and remediating in January of 2027. And once the EPA has agreed the remediation process is somewhat stable, we will then ask KDHE to provide what testing they require to allow us to use this water as raw water for the CCUA treatment plant. So that's good news. It may take longer than just a year, but at least we're making some progress there, and that's better than dumping the water down the river. So just an additional note, there are currently at least 5 different communities in Kansas that are using EPA remediated water as raw water influent to their water treatment facilities. So we're only asking to do something that has already been done in several locations around the state. At that, I will ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The governing body received updates to Chapter 17 building codes not too long ago when we talked about incorporating codes for the residential construction code, commercial code, electrical code, plumbing, and mechanical. The next step to the zoning updates is updating Article 1 and Article 2 of the building codes. Article 1 involves general regulations, the permits required, permit exceptions. Then Article 2 talks about specific titles. Who is doing what? Is the city inspector going to be performing any type of getting a case, looking at potential violations, following it to municipal court, filling out a charging document for not completing it? Or is that going to be a code enforcement officer looking at what the staff is today, making sure that those titles match who we have performing these duties? So Article 1 and Article 2 are going to be updated, just like the governing body saw the updates to the Articles 3 through 11. The next 2 articles to come to the governing body will be Article 1 and 2. You will see what the articles are right now, and then you will see what those updates are, so you can see comparisons and understand why those changes are going to be made. But they go hand in hand with the incorporated codes that you saw. I will meet with staff to confirm those changes, meet with city manager to confirm those changes, and then they will come in front of you. The plan is that those will come in front of you in September. Hopefully, then before you see them, you will at least get a heads up through another city report as to what changes, if any, are going to be made. That is all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Just a clarification question. Next week, we're going to have a workshop. What's that going to be the subject? Is that going to be these same zoning changes or other
No,
changes?
that's going to be something entirely different, Mr. Mayor. This is going to be focusing on the building code, but you're going to be receiving an update from staff for specifically regarding zoning regulations.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Move on to city manager's report. I think he's all ready.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As been discussed, we installed digital message boards today notifying the public of upcoming changes at 53rd and Woodlawn. The 4-way stop will go in on Monday, August 10th. We will keep those message boards up for 2 to 3 weeks after, just to make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. As Councilmember Dean mentioned, our Public Works, Police Department, and Communications are all on the same page, and we're working together really well for this transition. I would like to note, and maybe some of the public, we talked about this a lot earlier this year. We've analyzed crash data, and I put some up on the board there. We're looking at 10 crashes in 2025 and already 9 in 2026 at that intersection. We kind of experienced something similar with 53rd and Rock Road in 2017, 18, 19. We saw an uptick in crashes, installed a 4-way stop, and as you can see in that line, we're 1 or 0 since then. So we're really hoping that this helps the traveling public, as well as we listen to a professional traffic engineer. and does a great job, but she is an all-around engineer, but we hired a professional traffic engineer to do a study on this intersection and give us his recommendations as well. So just want to remind public and the council that this decision was made earlier this year. We just wanted to wait and make this change along with the crosswalk. However, as discussed, the crosswalk's delayed a little bit. We're waiting on some stormwater pipes and inlets that help with that project, as well as other delays. Ann did just tell me today that one of the inlet pipes will be delivered on Friday and hopefully the other next Monday. And then she texted me just now that Prado should be back on next week on Monday or so to continue on with the project. So hopefully that'll be soon.
So maybe we'll even actually get it done before the school starts, you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. And we knew we were
Cross our
running on
fingers.
we were running on a razor's edge there, but I'm glad we decided to go forward with this so that it doesn't affect traffic. You'll hear a lot from me tonight, so I'm going to cut it short tonight. So if you have any questions, I appreciate it.
Well, that's kind of good news. So thank you. All right. We'll move on to ordinances, resolution, and final actions. So item 9A is the construction of Bel Aire Lakes infrastructure has been completed. Unfortunately, due to issues with the soil underneath the box culvert, 2 change orders were issued in an attempt to provide a solid foundation for that box. These adjustments have added time to construct the entrance, and PEC is requesting additional fees for their work, and they do the construction inspection. The costs associated with the project will be financed through bonds and spread as special assessments against the benefiting lots. The city engineer, Ann Stevens, here to answer and discuss and answer questions. Ms. Stevens.
So as the mayor said, this is for additional inspection for the Bel Aire Lakes project. PEC, when we were including all these additional change orders for the box culvert, I asked PEC just to hold off on submitting any additional inspection requests and work through the budget that you have now. And then when you're getting close, please submit it. They got a change in personnel there, so that message did not get passed on. But as the Bel Aire Lakes project's wrapped up, the new personnel in charge of the project now reached out and said, hey, we're a little over budget. Can you help us? And I said, I will, please submit it to me and I will submit it to council and get your thoughts on it. The other item is that bridge inspection. That was something that I didn't think of at the start of this. Every bridge in Bel Aire, basically, if it's an open area from inside to inside of 20 feet or greater, KDOT considers that a bridge. So while it's technically 2 box culverts, their opening is wider than 20 feet, so it is a bridge. We did just get rid of one bridge over at 45th and Woodlawn. Those box culverts are under, they're like 16 feet instead of 20 plus feet that they were before. So, adding one and subtracting one, we're kind of we're even on that. But the mayor did reach out and ask what the bridge inspections cost us. As long as a bridge is in good, decent condition, they are inspected every other year at a cost of about $1,000 an inspection. So that's kind of what you're looking at. The bridge at 45th and Woodlawn that we just removed was in, I want to say it was in poor condition. I can't remember the specific word that KDOT used, but it was required as an annual bridge inspection. So we got rid of that one, or saving that inspection fee, but we're getting a new bridge. And believe me, I tried everything I could to get that under bridge length, but it just was not going to happen. So if you have any other questions, I will stand for them.
So, and we had this discussion between Ms. Stevens and myself, but the unfortunate thing is that we've just incurred a recurring cost that we weren't expecting. That's, it's not a lot of money, but if you keep adding up recurring costs before you know it, it's going to be substantial money. So just something we need to watch out for in future, so we don't get surprised again. So anyway, but I appreciate your checking into it, and thank you for the information. So,
Welcome.
good.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
So the 29,500 includes the additional observation services and that initial bridge inspection?
That is
Okay.
correct.
And that's already taken place, right? They've already inspected it?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I know there's a time frame that KDOT requires that you have that initial inspection. I just don't know if PEC has been down to do that or not.
Well, hopefully they have it certified before they release it, right? Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
And-
Proctor.
Stevens, or I was going to say Ann, but I was like, wow. So they're contractually obligated to the money, right? It's not that they just were like, well, we'd like more money.
The work has been performed.
Okay.
And I'm looking at our city attorney, contractually obligated, I'm not sure, because they were contractually obligated to a not to exceed fee unless revised by change order or amendment. And this is kind of where we're at. So there are services that need to get performed. They have performed the inspection services over and above their fee. If council likes more detail, I could certainly ask them for more dates and times, et cetera. But
So is the recommendation that we approve it?
that would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay.
And
All
I did stress that please, in the future, please let me know before you run out of fee, because, it's never a good idea to do the work and then expect payment. But this was one of those situations that the wires just communication wires got crossed a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be awkward for the new person to come in and
And you might
Come up
explain
real
a little bit of the history of the project and what happened. I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. So in September-ish last year, Pearson Construction was attempting to install box culverts at the entrance to Bel Aire Lakes. They put the one section of box culvert in and it just started sinking into the ground. The ground is in a wetland, so it's somewhat to be expected. There was no geotechnical work done prior to that on this particular area. So I got a phone call from Pearson that said, hey, this is what's going on. And I immediately said, shades of another certain project are dancing in my head. And I said, wait, stop. And so I called PEC and had their geotechnical team come out. This council did approve a change order for that work. And PEC's geotechnical team came out. There's a lot of discussions back and forth. They recommended digging down 7 feet from the flow line of the box culvert to a point where we reached shale, which would be a hard material that wouldn't give, and filling it back up with rock or some other low volume change material. The design engineers on the project are like, wait a minute, 7 feet, are you crazy? And so PEC went back and looked at it and they said that, well, we can try a different method. We can try digging down 3 feet, putting a layer of geogrid, putting a foot of rock, another layer of geogrid, a foot of rock, and another layer of geogrid to make a sandwich, and hopefully that would work. So the city council passed a change order for that. I believe that was in October. And Pearson got back to work and went started, and they were struggling. It was not working as desired. So they came back, I don't remember the date on that, maybe November, December, with another change order that basically removed the initial change order and put in a new change order for, it was $120 some odd thousand to dig down the 7 feet to the shale. So there's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of PEC assisting me and kind of going back and forth with the design engineer, PEC's construction staff, myself, as well as their geotechnical staff. And then once we finally got that approved and they got back out on site, then they did the observation and performed the work from there on. And at what point in that time did they run out of budget? I do not know, but it took a considerable amount of extra time on their part to help me shepherd that through the process.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
Yeah, so really good summary of it. The way I see this is we already approved a change order for all the construction to occur, which was additional scope. So it's a pretty easy decision for me, knowing that the engineer had to spend more time with additional scope of construction to observe it. And then the KDOT inspection was kind of new. I learned about that. Certainly agree with Mayor. It would have been nice to avoid that reoccurring cost, but a box culvert is a relatively small bridge that shouldn't have major issues. So the bigger issue I have in my mind is the actual maintenance cost of said bridge, because the inspection cost is pretty minor in comparison to ongoing maintenance that'll need down the road. But no, it makes sense to me. It seems like it's fair. It's kind of unfortunate that PEC dropped the ball on kind of the accounting of it, but makes sense. And I'm glad we got that sorted out and got the entrance installed so that it wasn't sinking. So appreciate your help working through all those details.
So, Mr. Proctor, your answer to your specific question about the bridge inspection, Exhibit B of this change order outlines the bridge inspection requirement. So it's here in what we're asked to approve today. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
just one last question to confirm. This amount will go into the special assessments for that area?
That is correct.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a motion to approve work order number 26-23 with PEC an amount not to exceed $29,500 for additional construction observation services for Bel Aire Lakes Phase 2 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. Mr. Dean, any other questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item B is Epic Sports, located in the Sunflower Commerce Park, also known as Wichita Hoops, is planning to sell the building it currently occupies. When the facility was constructed in 2018, the city issued industrial revenue bonds to support the project and approved a 10-year, 100% property tax abatement. The current owner has elected to exercise the purchase option, including in the IRB documents, and sell the property. As part of this transaction, the IRBs will be retired, the property tax abatement will end, and the building will return to the property tax rolls. So staff is available to discuss and answer any questions.
Kevin wasn't able to make it tonight, so I'll fill in for him. Essentially, what the owner's doing is retiring the IRB early. So the last year and some change will go back on the tax rolls, which is a good sign, a good thing for the city. The way the county does this, because I believe Barry talked to the county, is whatever month they sell, they kind of prorate those property taxes. So we'll actually see, because we finalized our budget number, we're not at the end in November, our assessed value will go up because that came off exemption, meaning there's a good likely chance that the mill levy that we established with the R&R will actually be lower than what we established. So you'll see a little bit of a tax relief for our residents because this IRB rolled off.
Well, it's a mill levy reduction. It won't be a tax
Well,
relief.
you
Unfortunately, it doesn't
we
work.
shouldn't jump into that. Jim.
Right. Okay, it was very good. So thank you for that explanation. So good. Any questions on that process, what we're doing?
Mr. Mayor, I was just for clarification, this business Epic Sports, you mentioned that's hoops. I don't know that that's true.
Not hoops.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not hoops anymore, but it's.
No, it wasn't.
Still have. Huh?
Never been. It's the building across the street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I have the wrong building. Oh,
Yep.
okay. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So just to
Apologize for making
clarify,
that
this
confusion.
business, I did a little research on it. That's why I kind of know they sell sporting
Yeah.
goods and
Yeah, they do.
uniforms and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's good that they're expiring the IRB. That's a good thing for taxpayers. So
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move we adopt a resolution of the governing body of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, authorizing the sale and conveyance of certain property related to Epic's Real Estate Development 2 LLC and authorize all required signatures.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. McIntosh. Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item is executive session. I request 10 minutes for an executive session. Okay, we held an executive session. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. No binding action was taken, and we will move on to discussions and future issues. So the first item under 13A is discussion presentation of capital improvement reserve fund.
So Barry and I are going to tag team this one, but I think it's important to spend a few slides just framing the conversation. I give a lot of talks to different civic groups throughout Bel Aire, and this is kind of how I explain our budget. And I tried to put our proposed 2027 budget in the same format so we can kind of get the lay of the land before we talk capital improvement projects. I always include this picture. I bet that kid might be 17 right now. I'm not sure, but I love that picture. I don't have to go through it with you, but for viewers at home, what does the general fund support for the city? It's our police department. It's a lot of our road construction and maintenance. It's our debt service. It's all the inspection and planning and zoning that we have in the city. It's our parks, our green spaces, our recreation facility, our adult education programs. Don't forget the seniors, the festivals and events that we put on, just the civic engagement, the public square, where we're at right now. That's what that provides us. And then, of course, the administration, finance, and legal of all our operations. We always start with revenues. We run about $10.6 million proposed general fund in 2027. That broken down, about 60% is property taxes, 22% is not a city Bel Aire sales tax, but our portion of the 1 cent sales tax that Sedgwick County has throughout all the county. And then all others are made up of grants and fines and fees and charges for services. So you take that $10 million and you take out our debt payment and our employees. And after you do that, that takes up about 70% of that $10 million. So let's talk a little bit about our debt. And I've been talking about it for about 10 years. And this slide probably comes up every once in a while, but I haven't explained it to new members as much. When we first did, I guess first let's stop for a second. When I say land debt, it is pretty much everything we purchased in the early 2000s in order to grow. A lot of acres, a lot of land that we're currently developing, and under that we financed it. The gray line you see there was the first structure when I walked through the doors that we had. We were paying interest only for a little while, and then we ballooned payment up to about $1.5 million in 2010, and then it accelerated throughout the life. We didn't like that, so we refinanced to smooth out that balloon payment, and then settle on about $2 million. Well, then COVID hit, and we saw a real great opportunity to reduce that interest rate. And that's where we're currently traveling on is the golden line right here. We are in 2027. So all this is principal payment, and the little blue is the interest that we pay. So we're kind of at the end of our mortgage on those payments, but it is a $1.25 million expense every year throughout our budget. So it's just important to review that. We're doing everything we can to keep that as low as we can. We're there. We're as low as we possibly can. We're going to have to ride it out until 2034 where we pay our last payment. So 2025 would be our fiscal year. So that's 9 more years of that payment. And then we see that come off, and that's a big substantial holiday for Bel Aire. Well, we'll definitely have fireworks in 2035. I guarantee you that. The other 3 things we have to keep in mind is our construction projects. Of course, we're reconstructing Woodlawn. We'll soon start on 45th Street, and then 53rd Street that we reconstructed a couple of years back will hit our books next year. So when it's all boiled down to it, Barry takes those numbers and adds them to future budgets to make sure we're able to calmly sail those waters, I guess you say, when we're talking about large capital expenditures. One thing I regret last workshop, and something we can talk about here, we talked about our stormwater fees, and Marty was sitting over there, Barry and I, and we're like, well, let's figure out what we spend on stormwater fees. And we're like, we clear trees, we do all that. Barry and I were putting together this presentation, and we didn't realize one thing: all those storm sewer pipes and that we're putting in with these new road construction, that's storm sewer. So when you look at, hey, we're adding $200,000 a year in debt service, is there a portion of that we could probably assign to the stormwater fund? You're right, we could. Now that's a decision for future, but that's something we're thinking about in this type of conversation: is how do we not only appropriately assign which fund pays for what, but how do we make sure we can deliver the capital improvement projects that you guys expect, instead of just hitting the general fund over and over and over again with these types of expenses. So we'll continue down that road and present what we think would be fair for both funds. But we were talking in my office, and we said, dang it, we should have mentioned that when we were talking about maybe possibly restructuring stormwater fees. The next expense is personnel, and I report on my personnel quite often. I don't think I have to revisit a lot of this, but I really can't think of, we run the most efficient and effective operation I can think of, with 5 to 6 lower FTEs. I'm not sure I can put one more thing on an employee than Bel Aire right now. So if we can't touch debt, and we don't want to touch employees, it's really hard to get off of that 70% of all our revenues going to those two areas. Now, will we look in areas to improve health insurance or those areas? Yes, we're actively looking at that. But when you think of some of the capital projects we're going to talk about tonight, it might not make the dent that you're hoping for. Now that is more of a cost control measure than anything else, than freeing up money to fund some major capital project. Again, we're just kind of talking about staff availability and how we've done, as well as all the construction that we have going on in Bel Aire. So that makes up 70%. I think I got that. The next thing, when I have an employee, I got to give them tools. I got to give them fuel in their cars. I got to give them software. I got to provide them a computer, insurance, all that stuff's going up. But that counts for about 17% of our revenues, so $1.8 million. So when you add that debt, personnel, with the tools we give them, the electricity, that's about 87% of our total revenues, which is good, guys. Everyone, that means we're funding operations with property taxes and how we break that out. I will say there needs to be a little bit of a history lesson in that from 2008, the financial crisis hit our city really hard. With that, those two categories made up 100% of our budget for a lot of years. And what suffers, and if you notice, there's no street icon in that plus. And that is something that this council and the council before you have really focused on, is our streets. And we'll go through each of our street improvements, but transferring almost $1 million a year to improve our streets is a big chunk of our projects. And we'll go through that. But I just think it's fun to, and I think Mayor Benaj was here, and maybe Tyler, or Councilmember Dean was here, but I think the last time when we found about $355,000, I looked it up, to redo Batten. We talked for about 2 hours to redo Batten, whether it's going to be concrete or asphalt. Like we cherished that $355,000 because we knew it was the first time we could improve a street in a long time. So those are good history points to remember, and why we do what we're doing today. And this purely highlights it. We have about 13% of our revenues left to spend on capital expenditures. About 8% of that 13%, we do that street maintenance program to maintain. And let's go over a little bit of that. And I don't have it off the top of my head, but looking at this map, and if we added 2026, I think it was almost 60% of our streets in the last since 2022, which is really good, guys. I don't know if there's a comparable in cities our size, but I'll try to find one. And we have this rolling 5-year improvement that we're going to continue down the road. 2026, as you know, we did Woodlawn and Rock. I think they both look really well, and the intersection of Rock as well. This is not really that detailed of a map. In 2027, we're going to bring this before you in probably sooner rather than later. I got to probably get it going on that. September's coming up pretty close, and we'd like to have something by October so we can bid it out and get ahead of the game. But this was the plan as of last October, but we'll refresh it. And that's really redoing 45th between Woodlawn and Rock. But we'll get into all this as we get in this specific program. This conversation tonight, I'd spend a long time going through this, but this is more to prove that we have a plan and we're following the plan. 2027, 28, more road improvements, 29, 30, 31, and all that makes up our street improvement transfers. We also have equipment reserve transfer. This is what funds, and I think we saw the drones and all our police vehicles. We buy a police vehicle every year, mowers and other equipment, that $100,000 transfer from this fund. And then we finally get to the CIP reserve. Historically, we've done about $400,000 on this reserve, and that's where we're kind of at today. What have we used this $400,000 transfer? I don't know if I can say ERP system upgrade more than I have in the last 2 years, but it's that big of a deal for our city. That was a big project. Of course, Public Works Facility, we built that. Probably the most notable ones and the ones I get asked about the most are our, Eagle Lake Park improvement. I will note, Brian called me the other day. Our volleyball court is getting used enough that we're going to set out a sign and people can start renting it by the hour over at the rec center. He said, "Is that okay if I do?" I was like, "Sure, you have the forms." But so I think on Saturdays it's really just becoming pretty popular for area groups and probably Bel Aire groups as well. But it'd be nice if they rented, we can kind of track who's using it and who's not. And of course, the rec center park.
Are you thinking of just reserving it or actually paying a fee?
I can't remember what we said. I think it was a reserve. There might be. I think we need to add the fee to the fee schedule before we can charge a fee. But it's more of a reserve site type situation.
Okay.
So you don't have one group on for 6 hours at a time.
Right. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. That's a way to be fair about it, right?
One thing, and Barry, I don't know if you want to pass this out. We did talk a little bit about this with our comprehensive policy when we updated it. I had Barry run some future forecasts for us. And this is really to highlight a few things. If you ever had a long-term forecast being presented, you conservatively estimate revenues and you conservatively estimate expenditures. So it always looks like not a good time. However, we do this as an exercise, Barry and I, to make sure we're covering all our bases. The hardest base to cover, and the fact that we don't have a crystal ball, is what's going to happen in Topeka. The forecast you have before you has a 4% year-over-year increase in assessed value. That's the best tool we have. I know it's not a strictly revenue cap, but you have an extra copy. But we also tried to estimate some what debt's going to hit our books, as well as keep a levy or an even mill levy throughout those years. The cool part, if you noticed up there, is Barry structured our expiring IRBs for the next. It's really neat to see that. I was glad he did that. This is really just a tool that Barry and I will use. I don't think you'll make two big decisions 10 years out based on this, but just it's really proof to let you know that we really look this far out and making sure we are appropriately advising council. The hard part when you're forecasting what type of growth you're going to see is, I've done this for 10 years and I've done a 10-year program. I've never been that right because you always want to try to conservative. As you know, we grew 10% the last year. That seems to be the norm. Now Barry can refine this a little bit, but the hard part is, a few of these debt services rolling on, we know, but we don't know what year. That's a big deal for us too, is what year it comes on. Really just wanted to show you that if we're only allowed to grow at that 4% rate, it might mean we have to make even more difficult choices than I'm asking tonight for you to make, because it hampers a lot of what we're going to long-term plan and do. And that's why we're watching the legislation so close and being involved in, what are we exempting? Are we exempting new construction? Are we looking at how new debt hits the city's books? And really it kind of goes back, not to get on the soapbox, but from that 2008 to 2016, 15 era, Bel Aire could just run operations and not improve streets. And what we've done is kind of supercharge some street improvements these years when we've experienced this growth and that we're allowed to capture it. So we're always on the mind to help the taxpayer and do the best we can. But I think the financial stewardship of the city is very important, and having some sort of forecast in mind is always a positive. And we'll update this as changes happen in Topeka, as well as more debts become known. We could probably spend all night on this, but I just want to get it going unless we have have a question, that specific question.
Ted?
Yeah.
I do have a specific
Sure.
question. Did you, or more clarification,
Mhm.
did you say the income increase is strict 4% year over year, or 4% plus the expiring IRBs?
4% plus expiring IRBs.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's slightly more than
Slightly more,
4%
yeah,
when we
yeah.
have IRBs.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
yeah.
you.
And the only reason we kind of shave the street program in some of those years is to keep our ending balance at somewhat where our target is, because I don't think it does any good going deep into the red. It doesn't show you anything. This is more of a I'm not going to say worst case scenario, because that's not right, but this is just a scenario that we're looking at and we can build upon. What I provided tonight and what I want to have more of a conversation on is sort of the cheat sheet, the back of the envelope type discussion, and that's what I provided in your packet. Assuming we just keep transferring $400,000 into the capital improvement program and making it to 2034, which 2035 is when our debt service rolls off. So that'll be a completely different discussion. I see that as our next, that is the most important the next 9 years are going to be very important for the city and what we choose to do, what direction we choose to go. Because that after 2034, then a lot of options present themselves for our city. What I also tried to do is put on the 53rd Street, like I said, 2028, we'll have $210,000 come on the books on debt service. As you know, that if our growth maintains the way it is, we should ride into it. But if we have some sort of cap on us, or we don't know in next year what the legislation is going to look like, that might create challenges, as well as we're getting ready to start 45th Street and trying to estimate when that debt will hit our books is another situation we need to look at. Going down the list, HVAC and City Hall, or HVAC and City Hall, we did phase 1. We're working on phases basically 2 and 3. That's about $200,000 expense. Upgrades to the security cameras and maybe some keyless door entries. We're kind of in the stone age where we have physical keys. What happens if one employee loses that key? We rekey all the locks. Knock on wood, that only has happened once since I've been here. So but that's still a risk. These digital keypads are always nice to have. We did a lot of work last year on Skyview Park. Skyview Park is located on the east side of our city, and we have it all designed out, ready to bid. I just wanted to have one last conversation with you before we push play on that, because there's a lot of unknowns. As you know, we have state legislation, we have other unknowns on debt service. So I just want to make sure we have that conversation tonight, and I'll give you guys the floor once I get done with this. City Hall. We would, we have some architecture and some relooking at some engineering of City Hall, how we can be more efficient with this building. I added this picture, and I feel like sometimes this is where we're at. We have a lot of desks close together and then a lot of free space over here. Can we reorganize in a way that's better? If you go downstairs, walk in the lobby, we have a huge lobby downstairs. Nobody's ever in there. But when you get past why wouldn't we just move some stuff around? So that's kind of where I'm at. We're also, the police department is a big portion of this. If we can, eventually one day we're going to have to find a way to either work with the county to do a joint facility for our police department's going to get bigger the bigger we grow. How can we stretch the life of our police department out in this building is restructure, try to look at things. Our community room's a lot of space. We use it, but is there a way we can use something more efficiently? Our senior room, those are the type of questions I want to ask maybe an architect to see how we can redesign this building to better fit our needs for the next 10, 15, 20 years versus what we have right now. The other big element is our rec center. I think Brian did a pretty good job of talking to the council when we did some department head updates. But the picture to your right's the main aisle floor. Do we spend some money to repair it? We did, and the other pictures are from his report that night as far as the pool. Do we tackle the pool? We do have a rec center master plan and about 1.5 million in total. It's about $4 million. This is a few years old. I imagine inflation's got it, but of that, building improvements is 1.5 million. That was 3 years ago, 2023, when we did this report. I bet it's at least 2 million today just to keep what we have. And that's another thing that I want to stress on this presentation is all these CIP improvements that we're going through is just to keep what we currently have. I think Skyview Park is the only thing that's a new amenity for the residents. If we're going to do something to the rec center to where it currently is, I did get back. We're talking about potential bike path, right? And the bike path would circle the rec center to where it's at. So do we want to pursue that opportunity still? That's about $200,000 of our money to unlock $700,000 project fund, about $723,000 for that sidewalk path. It would be very nice. I just think we have to have the rec center discussion before we say yes to a multi-use path around that property we have. Once Woodlawn gets reconstructed, I think that's been unanimous for a lot of years. Our most used park, Bel Aire Park, right along Woodlawn, would like to get a major upgrade or facelift. And in the 2023 master plan, it was about $1 million, probably 1.3 is what we're showing right now as inflation hits. We also have Brookhauser Park, and all our existing parks probably need some work. And I just put 150,000 on Brookhauser and Central Park, and then 100,000 on Denise Park. Denise Park's a little smaller, so I figured we could save some there. Pool maintenance, just to maintain our pool. Brian and I got together and said we'll probably have to have $50,000 in replastering every other year for the next 9 years. That's just to keep it. It's about $200,000 investment. And then, of course, our sidewalk grant funds for the next 9 years. So I'll be quiet for a little while and I'll jump back in. But I really just want to have that discussion of what direction do you want to give the staff? I don't want to throw good money into master plans and architectural studies if I know that the next step's never going to happen. So Barry and I are here to answer any questions you might have, and I'll let the conversation start.
So just to make sure we're on the same page about this, we're looking at $400,000 per year. I mean, you got a number here of almost 9 million, but only $400,000 for the next year, right?
So the way, and thank you, Mayor Benaj, on line 12, if we added up our current balance, which is about 1.7, and then we just continued transferring that $400,000 a year for the next 9 years, we get about $5.4 million. So that's the total over the next 9 years, what we would essentially have in the future.
Yes.
If I if we did everything I said right there, that costs about $9 million. So you see, we have that $4 million delta there. Now, once we decide, of course, all these projects aren't going to be built at one time. It's trying to show you guys we have a difference in revenue and expenses and help you prioritize.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I did have a quick question. I did look at this packet pretty close, Ted, and it looks like Bel Aire Park was kind of the final thing you talked about. And then there's a sheet in here right after that cost estimate.
Yep. There it is.
Right after that, there's another sheet. You didn't touch on that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's the other thing. So
It doesn't have a name to it, so I was curious.
Thank
what
you.
That is.
I did update this a little bit. We'll continue on. If we wanted to look at a sales tax, a city of Bel Aire sales tax, Barry ran some numbers, went to the Department of Revenue. In 2024, that sales tax number for 1% sales tax, a Bel Aire sales tax, would generate about $600,000, $590,000. In 2025, it was $620,000. In 2026, it was $766,000 a year. And that's for a 1% sales tax. As we continue to build gas stations and hopefully restaurants, and that number is only going to go up as we go. So that needs to be probably part of some of the discussion. And what does that do? And Barry put it through a pro forma. If we were to borrow against that sales tax, it would unlock, I guess, if that's what you call it, unlock. It would provide about $10 million bond that we could build. So say we wanted to build a new rec center and it's $10 million. We could tell the public, hey, we want a 1 cent sales tax for the next 20 years. It'll pay for the rec center. And that's what it's showing us today. And if we end up collecting more on that 1%, it just retires that bond even earlier. So that's a little bit of the inside baseball on a 1% sales tax. The other thing to keep in mind, and that's what this slide's not in your guys' packet, but like that would be the other option, is look at building a new rec facility or working with other organizations to build a rec facility. The other thing, and there's been some interest in building new parks, new community center. In the past, I threw this up here just because it's been a vision in the past before, is if we wanted to, and this is the land across the street, work with the developer and try to find some sort of gathering space. That's not in your CIP right now, but something to keep in mind over the next 9 years as more and more houses get built and the retail side looks at Bel Aire, we might have an opportunity there. Now, there's other opportunities if we wanted to get with a business on this property, but I think it needs to be part of the discussion, because I think regardless, either a TIF district or some sort of incentive would probably have to be given to this property. If we wanted some sort of central park in this property, we would need to talk about it. But I think we really focus in on the needs of the city, and what our comp plan says as well is, we want to try to build an identity, those sort of things, have a community for all. Is how do these improvements over the next 9 years help meet our comp plan and what our citizens expect from us?
Well, just as a reminder, and it's been a number of years since we've seen that thing thrown up there on that park across the street from City Hall. But we said back then that if a developer wants to work with us on a project, then we would consider that. But there was a discussion many years ago about us building the park and they will come. And that was the field of dreams that I said, I don't think that's the right way to go. We would be much wiser to work with a developer and do something that that works with a developer's plan, rather than try to build a field of dreams and hope we'll get something out of it. Those things don't work well for cities normally, and they end up. I've got several examples of ghost towns where that's been tried. So I'm not interested in going that route. So just to be clear, because we went down that road a number of years ago, I don't want to go down that road again unless, like I said, we have a developer that's want to put a project together with us.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just as a reminder on the TIF Can you just in a microcosm describe what a TIF is and why we even consider? I remember several years ago we put a policy together and it hasn't been used at all, but it is the type of incentive that you could partner with a developer to do something like this.
Yeah, it'd have to be a pretty good size.
Right.
So essentially, if you envision all that retail and if they end up doing residential near the retail, what that turns is an empty field into actual buildings. What cities see when when you turn an empty field into actual buildings, an increase in evaluation. That evaluation increase creates more property taxes. What TIF districts do is capture that property tax, that increase of property tax just for that area, and puts it in a special fund to be used on that project. So essentially, we're deferring taxes. We're telling the taxes, no, we don't need you for the general fund. You can use it on a park improvement, specific improvements laid out in the TIF district. So that's what a TIF district is.
And that's kind of laid out as an agreement with the developer, and it's
Very
specific,
agreement laden. Yep.
very specific on what costs it would help recover.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
And that's a little more of a specific economic development tool that involves the county, because I'd have to go before the county and ask them for it. It's not like an IRB where we have full control.
No, thanks for the refresher on it.
So you're asked tonight is what direction do you want to do for the next year on these CIP items? Is that what you're asking?
We can start next year, that we can start for the next year, but I really kind of want to have some sort of vision discussion as well, because I want to be able to help plan for the future as well. And we're not sitting here in a year asking the same questions. So we don't have to make a decision tonight, but it's important to continue this conversation regularly so that we have a direction we're heading.
Well, just a off the top opinion about the upgrade security cameras and add keyless entry. That's a big ticket for what we're getting out of it, I think. That's $300,000. And I think you and I have talked before about these keyless entries, and they don't reduce the amount of work that somebody has to do on it. It just changes the work you'd have to do to keep them going. So I'm not sure that's something that you're going to get much bang for your buck out of. I'm not opposed to the concept. I just don't know that we're going to see $300,000 gain out of a benefit out of it. So to me, that's kind of more a low priority in my thinking. And I have a question about the Bel Aire Park. It currently has a tennis court. I know it's not in good shape, but in this plan that you've shown here, it's gone. And I know we talked about doing a combined tennis court, pickleball court someplace. Do we have one in the plan anyplace now? I mean, even in high level, long range plan?
Trying to think if we had one. Yep, right there in the rec center master plan.
Rec center plan.
Here you go. This guy right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. All right.
And I think the idea on the master plan for Bel Aire Park is to have two playgrounds, one for older kids and one for younger kids. And it at the time that was one of the, and I wish I can go through the whole master plan and I can send it out. They surveyed tons of people and what they wanted in what park. And
No, that's good. I just didn't remember where we did with that. So that's why I wanted to ask the question. So I'm not really opposed to it. I just didn't want us to lose sight of that idea. So, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll add to that. I had heard from a lot of citizens during that time and sense that they do not want a tennis court removed. But I also saw what happened when we did relocate the volleyball court to the rec center, and it's more accessible to more people. And so I think we do have to kind of weigh a lot of decisions based on what we think will be maybe most efficient. And that might mean relocating it, or in some instances, we might end up eliminating a certain amenity that maybe a few people liked, but not a lot of people. But so I would tend to agree with you, Mayor. A lot of people use that tennis court, but if we can keep in the plan that we're going to commit to whether we put it at the rec facility or if we build a new rec facility, we're committed to tennis. I definitely think it gets used. I think a lot of people would be upset if we just went up and removed it and didn't replace it. And then one other thing I was going to add, just to kind of kick us off on this whole maybe 1 year kind of thought process, is Skyview Park. I know that's been like a 2-year discussion to this point, and we made a commitment in my mind to build that park 2 years ago. It's just taken this long to get to this point, and I think we need to move that forward. That's my opinion. I think we need a park east of Rock Road, and I think we should just make that, come up with a consensus on if we move that forward, because I think we've already made, in my mind, we've made that commitment. So we need to make good on that. So those are my kind of 2 thoughts off the bat on the 1 year thoughts.
Ms. Sandberg?
Mr. Mayor, I'm guessing we could all do like an hour-long podcast about our thoughts about development in Bel Aire, but I thought I'd just hit the highlights and then be quiet. That was second on my list about Skyview. I think right after we came on council, we were talking about this. So we need to serve those people out east and with that donated land. It seems like relatively modest park upgrades go a long way with our residents after Eagle Lake and Rec Center. So I'm a big fan of maybe looking at a Denise Park and Alley Park upgrade maybe this year, something modest. One thing on my list was, I just keep thinking about when that land debt goes off. Maybe $1.25 million with inflation won't be like a big windfall by then. But thinking about debt, thinking about how we're all going to be termed out by then, how do we leverage that and maybe do something sensible with that? I don't have an answer to that, but just as finance guys, just kind of thinking through those things. In terms of the rec center, that's a really hard one. I've always said, we can't compete with the Y and Planet Fitness and build something as great as that. But multiple other council members have talked about partnerships with maybe a school district or something like that. I love that idea. I just don't know what that looks like. But I spent 30 minutes in line waiting to vote, staring at the brown spots at the rec center and all of the issues that we're going to have to address soon. And I don't have the answer, but we probably need to do something relatively soon. Last 2 things I had was, I feel like it was right before you came on as city manager, we talked about reconfiguring City Hall, like maybe a window that meets you when you come in, but you're saying there was no official architecture done after that discussion.
No, I believe the former city manager walked around with some construction guys and had some adjustment ideas. What I'm talking here is how do we prolong this? I have a police department that is almost full. I need a better solution for them in the next 10 years that can accommodate our city's growth and the police department's growth, as well as the administration side is getting a little tight. So I would like to at least invest that $50,000 into a plan that could help everyone here in this building utilize the space. Now, does that mean looking at the senior center and how much that gets utilized and converting, how do we shift these walls around here that prolongs this building without, the other idea is leasing space for a police department. There's tons of ideas out there. I just think the first step is what can we do with the asset we have here today to maximize it? And that would be one of my priorities on this. On Skyview Park, of course, we want to go forward with something, but at the $500,000 level, we're okay with that. I just want to hear that because that's a big chunk of what our cash reserve is right now. So before I go out to bid and come back with $500,000, that might now be $600,000. Then we're looking at starting with 1.7 million. Then we're down, to 1 million. With only 400,000 replacing that. You see what I'm saying is it becomes I got to make sure we're on board before I send that out to bid. And it sounds like we are. And then if we do a master plan for City Hall, that's great. But what comes after that is probably, I'm guessing right now, $1 million. Everything it seems we turn around, it's $1 million. So I guessed $1 million. I think the real hard discussion is what we want. If we want to make some meaningful improvements to the current infrastructure of our rec center, then I would like to know that before I go forward with a Wampo bike path that surrounds the current existing property. Do you see what I mean? Because that decision needs to be made before the end of the year if we want to go forward with that walking path around the rec center. So that's kind of my interest. I think we can do most of the stuff on this list. It's just that rec center decision. Do we want to look at a sales tax? Do we want to ask the voters, would you be willing to do a sales tax to greatly improve our current rec center the way it is, in the land it is? Or do we try to find some land to sell to the, because 10 million, maybe we don't do a $10 million sales tax pitch. Maybe we do an actual study and say, how much would a greatly improved rec center where it currently sits is going to be, and then we take it to the voters with a sales tax. That's an option. The other option is we continue to, and I hate to say it, nickel and dime, improve here and there, improve here and there, improve here and there, and do that sidewalk. But I'm hesitant on the sidewalk before we have, before we know that that's where the rec center is going to be, at least in the next 10 years. And that's what we're talking about tonight. What do you see in the next 10 years?
That was my last bullet point. And I know Brian touched on some of the issues, but I remember with the master plan from the parks from 3 years ago, Brian said, I like some things, I don't like other things. It'd be nice to get him back in here and kind of hear like what his short-term, nickel and dime items might be. And like you said, maybe the community as well, but have a deeper dedicated discussion about it.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Mr. Henry. Yeah, I think, so I talked to, I got some data from Mr. Stats down in Derby, and I was asking him because the Wichita sales tax failed, and I was like, so what do you think you guys are doing down here that's different than Wichita? Not to speak for him, sorry, he was very, very respectful, but it really came down to building trust. And he said, look, we started with, I don't remember if he said it was 0.25% sales tax. We said, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we need it. Here's how it's going to benefit the community. They did it. They went and did it. And they saw what it did. And then they did it again. And then they did it again. So there is a trust building process with this, and it's really easy to skip that part or not have built the rapport to try for that. I do think it's, I would be far more for what you'd call a value investment for the community, where I'd rather spend 10 million bucks on something that's going to be a net efficiency where other businesses are going to want to come in around that. And heaven forbid, more than pay for what we spent on it in the first place and in taxes. And I mean, we could do something cool. I don't know if we do like a mountain bike park, or we don't have any mountains, but we can pile some dirt up. As a kid, I did that, and it hurt. But I mean, you can have a lot of fun with what we do with things that don't necessarily cost tons of money if we would engage the right community partners. So I'm not really sure the best avenue to discuss that, because I know that that's part of the recruiting process where you don't want to go shoot yourself in the foot and say, oh, by the way, we've kind of basically hinged a whole huge plan on this piece of property right here that we don't own yet. But I think I would like to think bigger on the matter, and I would like to build some community trust. And so maybe we don't start off with a $10 million kind of number. We say, hey, what if we tried a 0.25% tax, 0.5% tax, but we were really clear with exactly what's going for and why, and go for it, because I'm excited about the prospect. Hopefully it's still happening, of whatever might happen over here near City Hall. Excited for our first gas station, lots of great stuff happening. But I know that the developers want synergy. They want a reason that people are going to show up.
Sure. Well, I think that you're absolutely right. We've got to build trust with community on anything we do. We have been pretty much against, the council has been pretty much against considering sales taxes in the past. The difference now, though, and the reason these numbers have popped up, is that sales tax are now being collected on internet sales, whereas before they were not. And so that number a few years ago was only like $50,000. It's like, okay, what are you going to get for $50,000? Okay. Now you're looking at 700,000. So that's a big difference. Now it's still taxed the same citizens. So that's where the difference is.
And Mr. Mayor, just another thought is a good hedge against if there's some kind of control imposed on us as a burgeoning city. Sales tax would help offset that as far as just a risk of how we're
Some
funding our operations.
Yeah. But I think, and I think you hinted at it, I know Mr. Henry has been more direct about it. If you do a sales tax, you've got to tie it to something.
There has to absolutely be a vision.
Absolutely, it's something concrete. You can't say, well, we think we might do yada, yada. And it's got to be, we're going to do this.
Very specific
Right.
purpose for it. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah, right.
I got to pay the tax.
Right. Exactly.
Mr. Mayor.
Did Mr. McIntosh, did you have something you want to say? Oh, okay. I thought I saw an indication you did, but okay. Sorry. All right. Mr. Dean.
I wanted to go ahead. Earlier, I just kind of shared more of a 1-year kind of horizon, but just to kind of cabbage onto what maybe a vision might look like. You know, the way I look at this is since I've been on city council, I think our council has done a good job of really grinding on the basics, making sure we're doing a really good job at being lean, making sure that we're watching our growth. We're looking at IRBs filing off. We're trying to be as efficient as we can. We're also not collecting our full growth every year like some are. And so when I think about that, I think about, okay, we've got our basic items, and Ted listed all of them. There's quite a few. And I think some people don't maybe appreciate all of the stuff that is provided. Some of them are a little bit more visible than others. Obviously, when we're building a project like a wood lawn, whether it goes good or not, sometimes those things don't get appreciated, but those are visible and you can see those. The police department, you can see those, but there are a lot of things that we spend money on that are just a little bit more, hidden. I mean, even public works, unless you catch them in the right moment and you see them working on a water line, you're just not quite understanding how impactful they are. But then I put that to the side and I say, okay, our general fund operates well, it's efficient, and we take care of those things that people expect. And really honestly, in a suburb, probably expect it at a higher level service than they do in, say, a Wichita. And just not throwing them under the bus, I just think that that's probably a true statement for most people. But then when I start peeling it back and thinking about, okay, what other things do we do? Like the commitment our council made and continues to make on road maintenance. And one of the things was mentioned is the catching up of the road issue. For 20 years that was deferred. And I hate that word, but that's truly what happened because we're just kind of in critical mode, right? But we're doing the right thing, right? We're investing and reinvesting, and that is a 5-year rolling plan, and I'm excited to see that. And every year when we do road maintenance projects, those are impactful, and people understand that their tax dollars are being spent on something that will have a impact on their daily life. And then when I flip over to things like the rec, so I looked through kind of the list that you guys put together, and we've got the rec center and a bunch of our parks, and those are more quality of life things. They're not the basics. They're a step above that. But in Bel Aire, they are an expectation, or at least they have been for a while. But that level of service is sort of stagnant right now, right? We've got a rec that we've outgrown. It's clear, needs a lot of help. We've got a lot of parks that also need a lot of love. And when I start thinking about what do we do, it's not, let's raise property taxes, right? Nobody's going to say that. That's not popular, and we're not here to do that. But what I will say is our citizens know that we're watching that side of it. So they know and they understand that we're not going to be able to do a facelift to every project, every park every year. Like they understand that expectations. But I also do believe that, as we grow, we have more younger families moving into Bel Aire. We're probably becoming more diverse than we've ever been. And as we continue to grow, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But our level of service in those isn't going up because of general fund. We're so tight. But I also do like the idea of giving our citizens a chance to understand maybe what a vision of upgrading the level of service at all of our parks, whether we want to do a couple of major park rehabs and a couple of smaller rehabs. And when you add up that number with Skyview Park and Bel Aire Park, and then those smaller numbers, that's like 2.2 million. But say in the next 10 years, we want all of those parks replaced, which is honestly probably an expectation that all of those need a pretty significant upgrade, not just a little thing, not just 100,000, but probably more like 500,000 to 1,000,000 over the next 10 years. So when you really start putting that in perspective, that number is probably not 2. It's probably 4 or 5 or more. And then when you think about the rec center, and that's in the 10-year plan, we might not all agree on what that vision will be, but we need to do something in the next 5 years. And maybe it's a full replacement, maybe it's not. But if you're realistic about that, it's probably more like a $4 to $5 million project on our current property. If we decide that that property's outgrown, it's not working for whatever reason, and we want to build a new facility that could be better used by our citizens and by visitors, and could be built around for, retail and shopping and restaurants and the other stuff that developers do like to see, if you're kind of trying to parlay it into how do you pay this back, that's more like a $10 million plus deal. And so when you're thinking through that, I tend to think we do need to kind of make a decision on what the vision of Bel Aire is over the next 10 years and what revenue sources would make sense to partner to get a lot of that off the list, because that's not getting paid out of the general budget. That has to be found through grants. That has to be found through land bank funds that are still in the bank that haven't been spent or directed. Because we know we're not going to start slowing down on doing our road maintenance and on doing the big projects like 45th, when it comes. And so that immediately tells me that it's vision time, and we need to come up with some hard concepts for what new renovated parks might look like, what a rec center might look like, and we need to put it to the voters. And we need our voters to say, we're okay with the level of service that we're getting, and that's fine. And they'll vote no. Or we believe in that vision. We love the parks idea. We love the idea of upgrading the rec or adding or building new. And we understand that that comes with an additional cost, and it's not coming out of the general budget. Yes, we'll vote for 1% sales tax. It's a yes or no question, but I do agree that if you do it, you have to do it well. You can't half-ass it. The problem with Wichita, honestly, is they had 10 items on one question, and that is not a way to do it. So I think we would have to be really, really fine-tuned on what the vision and concept is of what the park upgrades would be and what the rec upgrades would be, and put that to the voters to vote up yes or no and make that decision, because we're just directing vision, but that big of an investment would require voter input. And what better way to do it than to say, are you willing to raise sales tax? So that's kind of my thought on all those. We'll all be off of council by the time that all gets built out, but I think it's worth giving the vision out there, and it's worth hearing from the voters if they want to support that or not.
I think that's all good. I think that that's a longer conversation than we really should spend tonight. To give, and I don't know, just what
It's
I'm
got to start
hearing.
somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
It's-
I understand that. I'm not complaining about it. I just think, okay, at some point we got to say, okay, that's a bigger conversation we can tackle tonight, but it is a conversation we should plan on having. The more immediate question for tonight, I think you're looking for direction for next year. And I think I'm hearing, and I agree with it, that Skyview Park needs to be done. I think that the rec center needs to have some serious look at what we can do to rehab that facility, and maybe not the $4 million, but at least get the tile fixed and do some of those things. And I don't know what Miss Hamburg was in reference to, but she observed some things there that I've not observed, and that's fine. Maybe those need to be looked at as well. Anyway, just because we got to take care of that.
And the difficult part is, yes, the tile can be fixed, very 50,000, say 50,000, but like we need a new gym floor, stuff like that.
Yeah. And gym floors are a lot more money.
It goes up from there.
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing tonight, and I don't mean to keep everyone for a long time, Skyview Park is a go. Mayor Benaj, can I, one thing, what I'll do is separate the keyless entry from security. I really do need to upgrade our security cameras for all facilities, so I might push you on that a little bit. I need some money for some security
Can have a
cameras.
discussion.
HVAC, of course, that's comfort. I would like to present a couple of architectural and engineering studies for one, City of Bel Aire, City Hall, and the Rec Center, so that we at least have a start on what a vision of redoing that rec center would look like, detailed, and how much that would cost. I don't think we have that today. I think we have a master plan that discusses the grounds. We know it's around 4 million, but have someone in front of you that can talk to the options and create that, at least part of that vision of, do we want to stay where we're at with this plan? That then we can make the decision, do we want to go out to the community and ask for that through a sales tax? Because I don't think we can do all of this, but I need to probably give you some details of what we need for City Hall, the exact number, as well as the rec center, so you can make that decision of, we're not just talking, because I agree with you. The worst thing I can do is set up some sort of sales tax initiative to fail by not creating a vision for our residents to vote up or down. A half-done plan is not right. So we're going to have to invest a little money to get that plan, that vision of, this is what we currently have. So when Councilmember Hamburg's sitting, waiting in line, she can look up at the center, or when you drop off your kids, you can look at the center and say, wow, I saw that sketch online and I really want to see that happen. I'm going to vote yes or no, one way or the other. So I think I can do those two. I just think this first run at things is probably something you guys don't already know, is we can't do it all with what we can't do everything with what we're currently doing as far as revenue wise. So we have to make this tough decisions. So let me get started on those things. I know Skyview Park will be a big deal for the city. As far as Bel Aire Park, Brookhauser, Central, and Denise, I know we can do some minor stuff. Maybe we look at that over the next year, but I really see that vision of rec and parks coming in full circle before the citizens, and we can maybe put a date of when we want it. But I think it starts with that plan, and I need to invest the money in that plan, and that's what will come before you next is a contract for that architectural and engineering study to get us to where that decision point will be.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
One other thing I wanted to throw out there, and I observed this and I said this over the last few years, is the renovation of said city hall and community space and senior center and mini library we have, and whatever we decide to do on a rec, whether it's rehab the existing one, which I think I've said, and I think everybody knows I am not a huge fan of that concept of renovating what we already have. I don't think our rec is in a good location. Personally, in the middle of a neighborhood, I think access is hard. I think for growing it, it's difficult because of the area it's in. So I'm not a huge fan of renovating it. I think that would be a lost leader. I think that would only serve our citizens for 5 or 10 more years, and we'd probably need to build something new anyway. So not a huge fan sinking money into it. But the thing I will say is I definitely see the need on the city hall side, and I do wonder if the two are linked. It feels like there's enough space in City Hall that if we got the community center programming and the senior center and the mini library out, and we were able to use City Hall's full floor on the main floor for, I'll call it business, and move the community stuff into a community center or a renovated recreation center, if that's what the will of the body is. So I agree that I think a more in-depth study needs to happen on both, but I wonder if the rec study needs to be a little nuanced in the fact that it's probably going to happen prior to a major city hall renovation, and could either be a renovation and expansion on the existing site, or the option of what would a new site look like? What would a new, not just rec center, but a full community center look like compared to the programming that we offer, compared to the size footprint we have? I would want it to be more robust. I don't want to just spend another $50,000 and then in 2 years we're sitting up here going, that's not enough concept. That's not enough to go off of. I really think that it would be good to set a goal to have a concept done by the end of the year that's probably too aggressive, but have a concept done by the end of the year, or at least a start of one, and then allow us to make a decision as a council next year if we want to move forward with selling a vision and putting it on the ballot. It does take time. And so the concept has to happen first for us to have that deeper discussion of how we want to discuss the vision. And then it's probably 2 years out from being on a ballot anyway. Like it's at least 2 years out. So I don't know. I feel like I would like the plans and concepts to be more robust. If we're going to spend money, let's do it like we plan to make a decision and not just come up with a budget. And, that's just kind of my parting thoughts on how much we should think about making them tied, because it seems like there maybe is an opportunity there to kill two birds with one stone.
And not to belabor the point, but when it comes to the potential of a sales tax referendum or whatever, we want to get the community involved as soon as we can.
Right.
So if we're going to approve some kind of funding for architectural engineering design, why don't we go ahead and set up some kind of steering committee? I'll hit it, Ted, if you're busy, to get the community involved now from step one.
Right.
I'd hate to spend 50 grand, present a design, and everyone's like, no, I don't like that at all. Let's get them in now. Start getting that feedback and that back and forth conversation starting now, so we get that initial buy-in and it's carried throughout the project until that whole entire follow through to help build
So
that trust
that-
as well.
Just to understand, the steering committee would be citizens being a part of that steering committee, right?
Yeah, a couple staff, a couple
Right.
citizens, a couple business owners, a couple
Yeah.
council members,
Mhm.
a good mix of the entire community and all of our boards,
Right.
everyone
Right.
involved.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I think that's a really great
we
idea.
should do that because you're right. We've got to develop a vision that
Yeah.
citizens want.
Let's let the
It doesn't
community
make
be the
sense to
champions
build
of the
something that
project,
they don't
right?
want.
Yeah.
But I still think on the case of the rec center, I consider them maintenance issues. We should get those addressed. We shouldn't leave the tile floor in the condition it's in. And regardless of what we do, big picture, that just needs to be done.
Right.
Okay.
It's just, sorry, Dave, for busy. No. It's just trying to find that one constant that we can build our 10-year plan off of,
Mhm.
right? Are
Yeah.
we going to dedicate the equivalent of 10 mils to debt service every year? As the debt falls off, we can issue up to 10 mils worth of debt service. That's a constant. We could plan on that. We could fit the projects in that gapping over
Yeah.
time. Is it the sales tax money? Is it we're going to do City Hall first and then the rec center and then the parks? We can build that out. But we just need that focal point, that end goal to start from and build backwards to develop that plan to get those done. That's sort of that overall overarching priority we're trying to get out with this conversation.
All right.
Makes sense.
Did I give you enough direction or enough confusion to help you?
Well, and that's the important. I wasn't coming out of here thinking we're gonna have it all figured out tonight. But if we don't set aside time and continue to talk about it, I might. If we have this was a light council meeting, I said let's throw it on here. We might keep bringing this before you. You gave us a little bit of direction we can run with. I think over the next year we have direction, but it's that multi-year, because we really eventually want to make this very valuable, where we're
Mhm.
100% sure what we're going, where we're doing. And when we do year, it's really hard to put together that forecast because it could change in a year. But that's where we're at right now. And we'll continue to have this conversation. I wasn't expecting this to be done overnight.
And
But-
just to comment on Barry's idea again, I think that deserves a lot of thought of how we accomplish the steering committee, but I think it ties right back to our comp plan and the things we said we cared about, which are things like these types of investments. And it does take getting more community involved to help make us and guide us on where do we want it? How big do we want it? What program do? All those things have to be vetted and bought in from our citizens. That'll help it be successful. So I appreciate you bringing up the idea of a steering committee.
Okay. All right. Well, the other item we have on the agenda is this presentation on water and sewer rates. And the question was, if we have already an ordinance that we will increase water and sewer rates 3% every year. And so the question I think was, if we just do 2027 water rates, what would that affect be if we canceled that 3% increase for 2027 only. And I think that's what your chart here said, but I'm going to let you tell us what they tell.
So we rebuilt the model here for the water fund. This is for the 0% rate increase for 2027. When I was reviewing the models, when we first imported the data, the first starting year fund balance was shifted over one column. So I fixed that. That's why that black line's a little bit lower on this one than it was last time. But we got that all ironed out. We set our reserve target at 25% for the fund. We're averaging 0.5% of new connections per year. We've got our personnel costs baked in there, health insurance cost. The capital projects, once again, this is only maintaining the water main replacement program that we explained at our last budget workshop, getting all those old mains replaced over that 10-year period. It's about a reduction of around $100,000 in our water fund revenues. But for 2027, we could definitely absorb that 0% increase if that's council's desire. So the 2027 requested column is what was presented last meeting. The revised column is with the 0% rate increase for 27. As you see, our change in fund balance just drops that $100,000. And we're still at our 30% max target for the water fund.
Okay.
Same thing with sewer, just a lot more fund balance within sewer itself. We can easily cover or not do the 3% increase for 27 in sewer. Once again, our reserve target, 25%, new service connections, personnel insurance. Capital projects, this does include $500,000 for the big manhole project, about $700,000 for the SCADA, and then the manhole rehabs throughout 2034, that $150,000 number per year for those rehabs. We're in the process of identifying more projects for a sewer fund because there is a pretty significant fund balance in there, but that black cash position line will drop over time as we identify more of those projects.
Just to be clear, this is the sanitary sewer fund, right?
Yes.
It's not stormwater.
Sanitary sewer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry
you.
if I said stormwater.
No, I just want to make
Okay.
sure we're on the same page. I thought it was, but I want to make sure. Okay.
So I should start doing that.
Barry, just to clarify on that, so the manhole rehab would come out of that fund, and that has not been plotted on there yet, like because we don't have the cost. It just-
There's roughly $1 million this year and $1 million next year.
you just
built in
you
right now.
dedicated that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And as we identify more, the solid black line will drop over time, our overall cash position as we identify more projects.
And then another clarification on the assumptions sheet for both water and sewer, you have a target of 25%.
Yeah.
Is that different than our 30% that we normally do with general fund? Like, is it just a slight different target?
If you remember from our comprehensive financial policy discussion, 30 is kind of our cap and
Gotcha.
17 would be our low. So
Got
I
it.
just,
You're somewhere in between.
yeah, right in the middle there.
So when we look at the water fund being at 46, then 32, then 30, we're still well above a bottom end. That's towards the top of the reserve that we're targeting.
Yeah.
Okay. And
So
then,
we're right there at the reserve target through 2032.
Right.
Then we'll dip below reserves and then come right back up. at
yep,
the-
I see that.
Bringing us back to where
Got it.
our target is.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Just wanted to follow. That 25% was just a new number, and I knew 30. It was in my head, but I was just double checking that.
Well, I appreciate you doing that analysis and giving us this information. I know we're not going to make a decision tonight, but I like this and I think this is doable. I think as we approve the budget, we should incorporate this. That's my view anyway. Of course, it's up to the council. I don't get the vote on it, right?
We will do our final draft at the next workshop next Tuesday. So if we can get a pretty good consensus on which way we want to go there, I would very much appreciate that because I got to fill out this 25 tab state form
Yeah.
the week after to get this thing published.
Barry, I'll give you
the
my
following 30
thoughts.
days, so.
So, I mean, the reason why you build a 3% increase in your policy is smart because you're trying to cover increase in costs. When it's clear that we're running pretty significant balance,
Mm.
I think we can afford to decide on a year-to-year basis if we're meeting our targets, we're covering our costs. We can make these decisions as council on a year-to-year if we decide to freeze it, or maybe review our policy and decide maybe we don't need 3%, maybe it's less. But in this case, I think it makes good sense to consider holding it steady for a year and then reevaluating it every year just to see where our fund balance is. I think the way I look at this is if we're not spending it, then we shouldn't be taking it from our citizens. This isn't a tax, but it's a user fee, and we're shifting it off our general budget by making it a user fee. And so unless we're spending it, which I'm not saying we shouldn't if we find projects that we should build, but I would always vote to put money back in the pockets if we're not actually using it to benefit. So that's my 2 cents on it.
And I'll give my little bit. And I think the water fund's the only one I'm a little nervous. 1 year is not going to
Right.
affect us, but the water fund over the next year or so, as you know, we talk about all these projects the staff is working on. One of the big one for me is the establishing those capital projects for water. Because if you notice, only includes water main replacements through 2034. We really need to get new water tower somewhere in this plan to make sure we can cover that. The second element, and I'll just give kudos to the council, we built a new public works facility with cash. So if you think about $7 million of debt service that we would have had to tack on this funds, this is where it pays off, is some of these long-term plans where we don't carry that load of debt on these funds, and we're able to have this year-to-year conversation. But I think the one thing that I will caution, and if we do it, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I think next year our water fund estimates and forecasts are going to be different because we'll have all those tent poles and what we want to invest in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's good. Ms. Amber? Oh,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mike, Mr. Proctor.
Mr. Mike says,
Sorry.
anyways, I had a question. So the EPA reuse water, do we need to take any expense into account for that we may need to spend money on that's not in here?
Don't think this.
If that's a thing for, I mean, is that going to cost us any money if we get access to that water to add it in, or is that totally CCUA?
It's totally CCUA, but
we gotta give
our
money to it.
additional cost to CCUA will be minimal because it's a little bit of pipe is basically what we need to put in.
Okay.
We've already got most of the pipe from that field to CCUA already because we've got a well there.
Okay.
Okay. So this is just more pipe, maybe a
Okay.
valve. So it's
Just
pretty minimal cost and probably would just be expensed. It
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even be capitalized. It's still some small amount.
excellent.
There might be some other projects, but we'll look at those more on an ROI type of basis to see, do we save some money by doing this? Okay.
And I guess the other question was like, I think you mentioned, but I can't really remember. It wasn't free. How much is another water tower, and how much does that impact this?
Depends on what size of water tower you want for what we need. I'm not an engineer, so I can't really determine that, Mark, but
Might be able to just buy the one right over there.
Yeah.
500, 1.5, 2 million, depending on size.
I think it's more than that. I think it's around 3 million, but
3 million.
oh, you're talking gallonage wise. Yeah. Cost wise, I think it's multiple millions of dollars for a new water tower. And we will need one on the east side of our city, probably in the next 5 years. So it's just finding when we need it. And that's dictated a lot by growth, but we can also build it and they will come. We haven't been that city in a long time. But there's other areas Barry and I are looking at, man. If anybody, we have these new water mains we're developing for developments, and how we expense those is going to be a topic of discussion over the next year. Is, do we keep just saying special assessments, or do we actually construct it as a city? And then when they hook on, we have user fees hooked onto that. But that's a whole other discussion we're going to have. But all those things come in play as we get bigger and bigger. It's just more work. But
That's all I was bringing up was
Yeah.
like, if we're going to like not, keep up, it's not like the costs don't keep going up. So we may get a win this year on if we're running some surplus, but I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot and have to come back and ask for even more in a couple of years, go from a 0 to
Oh, no.
a big jump. Then we,
Yeah.
people.
I don't think anybody wants to do that. You're absolutely right. Don't want to go there.
well, and that's kind of where I said, if you want to compromise,
An annual freeze is
0%
fine.
increase for sewer is very reasonable. But I'd almost wait until we have the capital improvements before we touch the water. That would be probably my staff recommendation. However, Barry says we can do either or. You make that determination, but I would think about that over the next week or so.
Yeah, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but
Right.
I'm glad we got the numbers here so we see it. So,
Yeah, to me, in my mind, the water tower is very growth driven. And so I also think you have to kind of balance your mind and think we're growing, our tax base is growing, our city is growing, our water users are growing. So, I mean, you have to offset that mind of having to hold on to every little thing with if we can't have growth support it, then why are we doing it? So that would be my thought too on trying to, you can what if yourself to death on what you're going to need next. So you do have to still balance it with what's our target. And if we're at our target on the reserves, I don't want to see what's happening with the sewer fund. I'd rather start building projects with some of that, like what we've discussed. So I guess get the water projects list together too.
Yeah. And it's not just users, it's pressure.
Sure.
You know that. But that's what I'm mainly watching too, is what pressures we're seeing, because, a lot of those businesses look at sprinkler systems and those
Right.
we're fine right now. I just look at Occidental, all these big developments that are coming in, and I just want to make sure we have that money ready to go when we actually need to press play.
I like your idea of looking at how we collect fees, especially from large water users in our industrial park when they tap into our main to help us build out more of that type of infrastructure, because those mains aren't going to get cheap either as we start growing and building that infrastructure. I think that is a really good idea, and we need to capitalize on that as we grow.
And I don't mean to prolong the discussion. I really don't. But, the reason we want to maximize the space in City Hall is because I probably need a desk for that, meaning I need someone to look at that. Barry and I do as much as we possibly can, but that'll be a conversation for 2028 budget, 29 budget, 2030. Not that we're trying to grow staff, but those types of projects are big, and we need to focus in on them.
Makes sense.
okay. So you got what you need?
Yep.
Good. Great. Appreciate the extra work on that. So thank you.
No problem.
Any other discussion or future issues?
Did you win?
Did I win? Oh, I was unopposed. So, yes. Thank you. So anyway, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, we're ready for adjournment, I think.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. Dean. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Proctor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Mr. David ever come on? I thought I saw him.
Aye.
Oh, okay, he is there. Okay. All right, first I heard of you all night, so thank you. So that motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week for workshop. Thank you. I feel like we just did the workshop.